Hello everyone, happy Friday. What is going on? How are all of you? I hope you are doing well. Let me get my chat set up here. Oh, do not end stream. That is not the button I wanted to press. I would like to pop out the chat. Get us all connected here. Fair warning, I was getting tattooed earlier today, so I might be a little bit out of it. So if I seem off, if I seem low energy, it's because I am literally tired because I was getting tattooed today. So, but we got tattoo finished, so that's pretty awesome. But doesn't mean I'm not tired. There's a lot of bony stuff. It wasn't the most fun I've ever had in a tattoo session. And now I'm thinking about the applications of inkless tattoo guns for kink. For sensation reasons, not so much. I know some people do that for, what do they do it for? For like bloodlining stuff is like an alternative to scalpels, I think. Could be interesting. I think maybe Shay teaches a class on that. I know somebody did. I saw it at Dark Odyssey last year. But anyways, that's my own personal thing. Oh, let's get the question box set up. I think the tattoo looks great. I can't show it to any of you. I've done tattoos kind of the opposite way. I started doing everything very non-visible, and now it's starting to become visible. And I don't know when I'm going to start doing this. It'll probably be after Kink Fest. It'll probably be like May, but I'm hoping I'll be able to start doing like my arms. And that would be fun. That would be very fun. Let's see, start Q&A. So there you go. There's the Q&A. Oh, I wonder if I could put emotes in the Q&A. That would be cute. If you have not been here before, because I know that we have some new people, my name is Evie Lupine, and here on my channel every Friday we have a little interactive viewer Q&A, and you all come in and ask questions. I normally put a couple of suggestions in the title for topics that we could talk about. One of them is the proliferation of puppy play in social media. I didn't even look at this, but I didn't know, but apparently I had a tweet that really popped off because I saw a screenshot from Wuthering Heights, and I was like, did they do puppy play in Wuthering Heights? And apparently the answer is yes. Like, every movie has puppy play in it now, and it's all over the internet, and puppy play is literally taking over, and I honestly don't know what to think about that. I don't know if that's like a good or a bad thing. So I mean, we could discuss that. Also things about dungeons and Valentine's Day stuff, and just the whole, everything but the title is a suggestion. It's not the theme necessarily for the stream, because you all decide what the theme ends up being, and we kind of just go where the questions lead us. You can ask questions directly in the chat, and I will try my best to get to them. However, if you would like to make sure that I answer your message, and thank you so much, Sean, for becoming a 14-month member. That's super exciting. You can use the chat box that we have up here, the little white box. It puts your question in a little segregated area, basically, and other people in the chat won't be able to see it, and you will not get a little text pop up on screen the way that you would do if you get a super chat or a Streamlabs donation. It'll highlight it, it'll pop up this little icon, and sometimes depending on the dollar amount, and also read out your question out loud, which is super fun. But if you want to just do something really standard, you can do a super chat, you can do a Streamlabs donation, you can also use the question box, and so you get lots of different levels and opportunities of asking questions. I really do try my best to get to everybody. I try to go in the order that questions were asked, just to keep things as fair for people as possible who are, not paying to have a question answered, just to, keep things all level set. And I usually give people about a 15-minute warning before we get to the very end of the stream if they want to re-ask a question if I didn't see it or I missed it, or the chat ate the question or something along those lines. But with that being said, I answer questions related to kink, BDSM, polyamory, LGBT issues, pop culture stuff, dating, relationships, dating apps, so on and so forth. And that's usually the wheelhouse I'm in. But if you want to ask me questions about, I don't know, like the Olympics or tattooing or my favorite color or something. We can also chat about that. It is it's not really choose your own adventure. It's choose my adventure for me. It's really what's happening here. This is actually like an interactive, this is more like an improv thing where y'all are giving me topics to do like an improv thing too. And also down here is my dog Bandita. She is currently fully ensconced in the purple blanket. I can't even barely see her on there, and I see her every day. And she is currently fully in, yeah, there you are. Hi, sweetheart. You move your little news. It's so cute. But there you go. Those are things you need to know. Be respectful. Listen to the mods. Don't spam the chat. And we'll have a great time. Also 18 plus only. So if you are not at least 18, please don't be here. I don't know if we have any new people that would be under 18 because all of the topics that tend to pop off on my channel tend to be cases about like assault and sex crimes for some reason. So maybe you're 16 and you listen to that and we're like, I'm gonna subscribe and join a live stream. You can watch, just don't, if you're 15 or 16, don't ask me a question. Okay, that's not appropriate. But yeah, that's basically what y'all need to know. I got to be a dungeon mistress for the first time last Sunday. Was I being too much when I kicked a creep out with a whip? Not knowing the situation, it's a little hard to make. I feel like this is one of those like trick questions where like you get more information later and it changes your opinion. In my opinion, if you have to kick somebody out, don't reward them with kinky play in the process. Like, don't reward somebody with, you know, getting a verbal smackdown or a whipping or a spank or anything. Like, just handle it very, like, record scratch, kink is over, no kink is going on, you are leaving, I am calling the authorities, I am getting our security guard. Like, that needs to be the way that it's handled. And I have seen people, luckily not very often, but I have seen people be not forcibly removed, as in dragged out the door, but like all but shoved out the door because everyone that was in leadership at the event was like, no, you need to leave. Like, you can leave of your own free will right now, or if you do not get out the door, we will be calling the police, and I can literally see a police car at the end of this block, so do you want to test that? Like, that's kind of level of stuff. I would not, like, think about it this way. You don't do things that would encourage bad behavior, and there are, for some reason, especially with cis male submissives, and I don't know why, there are, you know, male submissives who will decide that they want to annoy people in order to get their kink needs met. Pro-doms deal with this a lot on the internet. Like, they get obviously offensive or insensitive emails, and people do it on purpose because they're trying to essentially brat at the dom into giving them a verbal punishment or degrading them or doing something like that. It's actually, when you respond really harshly to something like that, it actually just encourages the behavior. Whereas even if the person you're doing it to right now isn't that kind of person, other people might see that and be like, oh, that's how this game is played. And they're gonna think about it in a different context from what you mean, in my opinion, personally. But nobody got kicked out. Wait, did I misread that? I swear that said, it said, was I being too much when I kicked a creep out with a whip? So, like, spent Valentine's Day in solo played and we got kicked out. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good way to make sure, like, you know, it can happen. I'm sure somehow, but it's a lot harder to violate anybody's consent when you're playing solo, you know, because you know your own boundaries, and I guess people probably push that sometimes, like, oh, I shouldn't stay up past 2 a.m. and then here you are and it's 5 o'clock in the morning and you're still awake playing Minecraft. Okay, is that a boundary violation with yourself? I think maybe. Actually, that might be a good way to think about it for if you want to change your habits. Is like, actually, you're violating your own boundaries with yourself when you don't listen to the things that you said you wanted to do to improve your life. But yeah. A lot of the time, a lot of the male submissives are Cindy sometimes. I mean, I love male submissives. I think male submissives and switches can be some of the sweetest and, like, also heaviest pain bonds I've ever met in my life. Like they're, for whatever reason, my observation, and maybe this is because of how much of a social cost there is to being like an out male submissive, like especially in America compared to other places. So you get a very like diametric spectrum of people. You get either the really, really nice, like wholesome ones that are very like aware of themselves, very tuned to their body, good communicators, very respectful, like genuinely want to make sure that everyone, not just them, is having a good time. And then you get people that are like, well, but I tipped you $20, so now you have to touch my feet, or let me touch your feet, right? Like, that's how that works. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, that's not how this works, actually. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. But I think the emotional, here's my theory on like why are male submissives like seemingly more emotionally on average. I think one, the way it presents itself can be different for different people, just depending on how you were raised and like what values your family had and like how you were taught to express emotions and things like that. And I think that when you are a male submissive, the kinds of physical interactions you want to have are different from what is expected in a lot of cases than the standard, you know, masculine script that you're given. And so, to start with, men across the spectrum, top, bottom, straight, gay, whatever, doesn't matter. For the most part, very commonly touch-starved because of weird rules socially about masculinity and how people are allowed to be touched, want to be touched, and the kinds of physical affections you can have in various level of relationships, which in the vanilla context usually leads to like vanilla cishet dudes that like their only form of physical connection is just fucking people, and that's not fulfilling. And if you're a male submissive who doesn't want to be the one who's penetrating someone, if you want to receive, you know, more like feminine, air quotes, feminine, like sort of patriarchal entitlement, which I think is what happens a lot, is you have both, you know, sort of patriarchal entitlement, which I think is what happens a lot, is you have both, you know, men that maybe don't fit the model of masculinity, and then you also have like still like kind of some patriarchal bullshit happening where it's like, but you exist to serve me, so I paid you money, or I'm referring to you by this title, so therefore you now owe me this, because that's, this dynamic is very transactional. Also, I've like taken like 20 minutes to try to eat this freaking segment of an orange. I had one of these yesterday and I ate like one segment. It was so bitter, and I'm like, the fuck happened to this orange? I've never had that happen with a clementine. It was super weird. But you get people that are just like, they just don't know, they don't understand like co-regulation exists. It is a thing. Like they think it's a very like, I get my needs met, and it's a very one-directional thing, and they don't figure out how to both give and take. And until you get to a spot in your life where you figured out how to do that, it can make things quite difficult. Tomorrow night is Club Awakening's 10-year anniversary. We are having Orpheus Black do a demo at the state. Oh, at the start of the tasting party. That's awesome. Orpheus Black is great. That's super exciting. I hope it goes well. Happy 10-year anniversary. Did the creep have the whip, or was the whip used while kicking out a person? Considering the fact they said that they were doing like dom stuff, I assume that they had the whip, although I guess potentially not. I'm not sure. Your present self is violating your future self's boundaries, or is your present self violating your past self's boundaries, but only your future self experiences the punishment? This reminds me of a SpongeBob line where it's something to the effect of like, what is yesterday is today, but today's tomorrow. Same vibe. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. Hello, welcome back. Glad you could make it. All right. Do you know of any aftercare stuff for DOMs? I only know of ones for subs. A good question. So my initial, maybe not so satisfying answer is that any type of aftercare can be for anyone. And I think it's better, like, okay, it depends on how you're thinking about aftercare. If we're zooming out and we're talking about this on the level of like snuggling and eating chocolate and watching a movie, that kind of aftercare like works for a whole array of people. Does not matter if they're a switch or a top or a bottom or what they did. That can just be a thing that people like regardless of what role they played in the scene. Now, if you're talking about aftercare that's more specific to the type and level of exertion that happened during the scene itself, then typically, say a rope bottom who did a super intense torture tie suspension sequence for 25 minutes and then, you know, did a whipping on top of it or something, like, and they were sweating and they were screaming and like it took a lot out of them to do that scene. They're probably going to need different aftercare than a dom or a top needs because their level of physical exertion was different. So that's like more like, you know, hey, you get a little orange, you know, for a little boost there. You know, you think about foods that can help, you know, resupply raw materials for, you know, neurotransmitters and like, you know, sleep habit stuff. Like you can get more into specific aftercare for dealing with the level of exertion and like mental output from the scene. That can be more tailored to what bottoms and submissives need, but thinking very broadly, like doms and tops can want the same kind of thing, especially on an emotional level. Now, different scenes can require a lot of physical exertion and planning and mental output from the dominant. Like if they're doing a really elaborate, pre-planned surprise fear play scene, that's going to take a lot of mental output for them to put that together. Or if they're doing a rough body play, wrestling, takedown and capture scene, they're also going to be having a lot of physical exertion. So like your mileage will vary in this, but I think for the most part, what tends to be the separating line is submissive aftercare tends to be devoted to like physical energy needs and then emotional needs, whereas dominant and top oriented aftercare tends to be emotional needs and mental needs first and then physical needs second, just as like a broad strokes thing. So as far as aftercare for doms and tops goes, it really depends on like what mental state you're coming out of from the scene and then like what makes you decompress or what helps you decompress, what helps you feel reconnected to your environment and to your body. You know, are you the kind of dom and top where after a scene you feel a lot of shame and discomfort about the things that you did because, oh my god, I'm such a horrible sadist and like why do people let me do this to them and I'm awful and oh my god? Do you need more emotional reassurance from your partner, like telling you that they like this scene and that they still like you and that you're still a good person and that you're not evil? Do you need that kind of reassurance as a dom or a top? Some people do, some people don't. Do you need more of a like reassurance of the relationship itself that like, you know, you don't hate me, you know, that you definitely wanted this, that, you know, you don't think differently about me? Is it that kind of emotional reassurance? Is it, you know, wanting to emotionally reconnect on like maybe a calmer level with a partner where maybe before you were doing like something really high energy or super intense, like you were doing like rope bondage or blood play or heavy impact play, and now you want to have like nice cuddles to just like rebond and get back into more of your steady state? Is that kind of giving you a gradient of things? And that can involve like talking things out, cuddling, giving emotional reassurance. That can be reassuring like physical touch. That can be like foot rubs or a shoulder massage or brushing someone's hair or even just like, you know, curling, like being the submissive and like curling up on their lap and just kind of like gently touching them back or like holding their leg or something or holding their hand. That could be like, you know, getting dinner together and like, you know, getting takeout and then like chatting casually over takeout or like not saying anything and like watching a movie together. I know some people that need to talk it out and some people that need like silence and just reflection while they silently eat Thai food, and, you know, maybe in a couple hours the next day they'll be able to say something. But it depends. Me and my partner, oh, also, welcome, Gentleman Eggy. Always appreciate your input. Me and my partner, Aura, do love our loving aftercare, etc., but we both are big foodies, so a mini fridge full of snacks for right after things is perfect. Oh, that's great. I love that. I'm glad that you guys adopted something that, like, suits both of you. I love the idea of, like, a little mini fridge. You know, keep some sparkling waters in there, some sodas, you know, chocolate, chilled fruit. I think that's, like, a great thing just to have on hand, especially if, like, where you play is quite far away from, like, your normal, like, fridge or kitchen environment. That's great. I love it. I guess a travel version of that could be, like, a little cooler or lunchbox or something. Definitely a good thing to consider. What is today, but yesterday it's tomorrow. Eugene Krabs. I think what I said is closer. I think it's like what is yesterday's today, but today's tomorrow is definitely what Mr. Krabs said. I don't remember the context that he said that quote in, but it's SpongeBob's solid. Like thinking of gender roles and who are usually allowed to be wanted and secure in it, in a sub role. I mean, I guess, like, typically that's, like, I think stereotypically probably male submissives are, like, less, like, likely to be desired, especially in a heterosexual context, as being submissive. But, getting back into aftercare stuff, honestly, as an older dom, aftercare includes water and ibuprofen for me. Spanking and flogging people can really take it out of you, and rigging can be heckin' exhausting. Yeah, I mean, that's why I was giving, like, multiple examples of, like, it really depends. Because also, we haven't even factored in, like, you know, chronic health issues, chronic pain, ability level, like, just level of physical fitness, familiarity with the type of play that you're doing, and there's definitely doms where aftercare is like, all right, I'm gonna sit, and I'm gonna drink some water, and I'm gonna have myself a little orange, and I'm gonna take this medication, and then I probably need a nap. Also naps, warm showers, sitting in a bathtub for a while. I'm a very water-oriented person, so I like things that involve being in warm water. That's probably, like, my preferred aftercare routine. Like, if I could do a scene and have any aftercare in the world, if it's just, like, unlimited time, setting is exactly perfect, whatever I want it to be, my ideal aftercare scenario is we do the play, we maybe cuddle for, like, a little bit, like, just a little bit. Hot shower, probably hot shower on my own, if I'm being honest, because I don't want to have to deal with, like, you blocking the shower water and having to rotate who's in front of the shower. I don't want to deal with that. I just, solo shower time, you go do your own thing, you take care of yourself, have a little hot shower, drink some water, then take a nap for, like, at least an hour, probably. Maybe even, like, 2 hours if I'm feeling really luxurious about it. And then after you wake up, you get some food, then you talk about it. I think that's, like, my ideal. It's a little bit of everything, and especially if I'm doing, because there's a lot of scenes where you just, like, don't need aftercare at all. Like, if I'm doing most rope bondage, if I'm doing, like, pet play or something, I don't need, like, any aftercare. Like, the play itself is its own aftercare. Like, I don't feel the need, other than maybe mentally transitioning out of the state, and that takes, like, a couple minutes maybe for me to do, because I tend to stay pretty in my head during scenes. I'm not somebody who likes subspaces very easily. But if I'm doing something that requires aftercare at all, I'm probably doing something with blood play, something with heavy impact play, maybe some kinds of, like, heavy predicament bondage sometimes. And then I need the full routine, and that's just, like, exhausting, and it's like I just was at the gym, you know, for a long, long time. Yeah. Yeah, and the obvious replenish whatever has been given and taken in the scene. If you've done a blood dump, you want to have sugar, food, heat, vitamins, etc. Both sides of the slash, yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know so much if, I don't know if the dom needs sugar after a blood drawing scene, if their blood didn't get drawn, but I think in general it's, like, a good baseline. Like, my baseline routine, if I'm gonna, like, suggest a routine to somebody on either side of the slash, it's gonna be, like, sort of a choose, like, pick three, all right? Pick three, pick some form of hydration, pick some form of mental relaxation, pick some form of nutrition. All right, so, you know, your hot tea, your piece of chocolate, and meditating. Or your cold glass of water, your, you know, warm shower, and a salad. Like, just pick something from those, and you'll probably be good. You'll probably be good if you start with that. as a sort of a baseline to work out from. And then as you get more experience and as you do different scenes, you'll get more of a sense of like, oh, okay, this is actually what I need to be doing. This is what my body needs. But if you don't have any idea what you need and you're trying to just guess, like that's a pretty solid place to start. And especially figuring out like partner dynamics for aftercare can take a long time because you get really different needs. You know, like I was saying, one person can be a talker, somebody else needs to reflect. Somebody else might want like a lot of physical touch. The other person might be like totally touched out and needs to like be on their own. And you just work out over time kind of where you fall on that spectrum. The stream seems to have repeated itself on my end a couple of times, like you repeating yourself for a few seconds. Wondering if anybody else had that happen, but doubt it. I know YouTube has been having like, there was a couple days ago where like YouTube was just down. Like the YouTube app didn't work for like hours a couple days ago. So I would not be shocked. I think it was like Wednesday or something. Maybe it was Tuesday. Wednesday or Tuesday, like YouTube just didn't work for like 5 or 6 hours. So I would not put it past YouTube, but I don't have anything on mine that should be like echoing. I'm like 99% sure. Oh yeah, my only stream thing is muted, so that shouldn't be it. But if anyone else notices it, I will investigate. But it could also just be app problems. Also, to be honest, as a dom, you might need a plan to take care of yourself. Some subs may not have anything to offer, and some might be more of a high five, see you later type. Also, a good point. I think it's actually to go back to the examples I was given of like sort of choose three from each, choose one from each of these three categories. Part of that is having something that you can do by yourself, sub and dom, because even if you have a plan where like, oh, we both really love cuddling and we want to spend time together on the couch, like if you have a scene that like does not go off as planned, or if somebody's safe word, somebody has like a panic attack, or something else happens that you're not expecting, like that might not work out the way that you wanted it to. Especially when you haven't played with somebody before and you maybe don't know what your emotional rapport is going to be in during the scene. You might think, oh yeah, we can cuddle afterwards, and then you do like your humiliation play degradation scene and you're like, ooh, actually I need to like distance myself a little bit from this before we do anything together. And so you might not know ahead of time. So I recommend like when you're choosing the hydration, nutrition, like relaxation option, the relaxation option and the food option, even any of that, like think about it in ways that can happen together and ways that you can do it on your own, right? Like I don't need somebody with me to take a warm shower or to meditate or to cuddle up under a blanket with my dog or, watching a favorite movie. I don't need a partner to do that stuff, but I can also do it with a partner if it happens to be the case that they're available. But also, just to make it super obvious, all of this should be negotiated. All of this has to be negotiated. You cannot make assumptions about aftercare because of what you think somebody would want, or, well, all of my previous partners wanted this, or all subs want this, or no dom wants that. None of that business. If you have those thoughts, eliminate them immediately. The goal should be to figure out what both of your needs are, and if you can meet both of them, and then what you're going to do. Like, have a plan. Talk about it, have a plan, figure out where your needs overlap, and then essentially have a solo backup plan in case your partner plan doesn't work out, if you happen to have one, because you just never know. You just never know. The vibes might be off. It's not even necessarily that your partner might not want something. You might not want to do something with him. You might, like, get into the scene and be like, oh, we were not actually that compatible, and the energy was weird, and I just, like, want this to be over. Like, you might be the one who needs to, like, walk away, right? It might not be your partner walking away from you. So yeah, you never know. You gotta plan for at least two possibilities, which hopefully isn't too much of a burden. But I know people don't always like planning and talking about stuff, but I like it. I like talking and planning. Yep, definitely. Yeah, sugar needs vary. Being diabetic, I need some sugar immediately after, and a proper meal within the next hour or so, though I can put that off if I have more sugar. Yeah, oh yeah. Like, one of my first partners was a type 1 diabetic, and I learned that very quickly. That, oh yeah, good idea to have this kind of thing on hand to make sure that there's not going to be like a blood sugar crash after a scene, because especially if you're doing... okay, it's one thing if you're doing like a dinner service scene, that's kind of taken care of, right? But if you're doing an impact play scene, if you're doing bondage, even if you have something like a glucose monitor, or an insulin pump, like you're gonna wanna Want to make sure you have something quickly on hand, because if you're just focusing on a physical activity for a couple hours, that's probably going to cost you. Yeah, get the food delivery. I was hearing every third word and then it just went into the endless loop of buffering. Oh no. Okay, that sucks. Well, hopefully it doesn't continue, but YouTube live streaming is an adventure. I'm actually gonna turn off my wall heater because I think it's getting too warm in here. Hi, puppy. Hi, good girl. Hi. How are you? Hi. We had to pay the puppy toll. Had to pay the puppy toll, didn't we? Hi. How are you, sweetheart? Oh, good girl. Good girl. It's sweetie pie. Hi, baby. That's a rainbow. What's that? What's that little fluff? Hi. Good girl. I'll pay you more later, okay? Alright, the puppy toll has been paid. Oh, actually, the camera is, like, tilted. Oh, that fixed it. I think that fixed it. Okay. I don't think the stand was down all the way, so there you go. Alright. Papita pet time. My partner isn't diabetic, but does have a lot of vitamin deficiency, so it's made me want to learn how to cook. I love the idea of caring for her like that, and I get to cook tasty food. That sounds very sweet. I am very pro. I guess people would think about it like role reversal, but it's not really. Like, dominant caretaking things I think are really adorable, and I wish there were more spaces and conversations for, like, non-DDLG caregivers, like caregivers that are not for littles. This is not to say that I want to bogart them from littles. I'm just saying, like, dominants that are caretaking in their nature or have some aspect of that to their play, but that are not maybe self-identified as caretakers in the context of, like, caregiver little. You know what I mean? Also, cast iron skillet. I don't know. I'm assuming iron deficiency is in there because that's the one that, like, everybody has is vitamin D and iron. But I've heard cast iron can be good for that. And I think there's some other things too that you can do. But you know, that's a talk to your doctor kind of thing. Because it depends, right? If it's like, is it just a temporary deficiency? Do you have, like, absorption issues? Are you taking, like, special vitamins for it? Blah blah blah. I don't know. I've known people that have had to get, like, iron infusions done before. That does not seem like a fun time. I gotta be honest. If it's a B vitamin, if it's a vitamin B12, I can tell you fortified nutritional yeast is an easy and good one. But you gotta make sure it's one that has B12 in it, because not all of it is something that has extra B12 in it. Personally, I don't mind which of us does what, as long as we can exist and be happy and do things together, and that special way is what makes me love Aura so much. Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. It's a good attitude. Yeah. It's like, does it matter if this is, like, the most dom thing I've ever done, or the most switchy switch thing I've ever done, or the most subby sub thing I've ever done? No, because that's what the person I care about. Like, who gives a fuck what the external label is? It's about what you feel on the inside in your eggy heart. I'll happily cook and spoil my princess so she knows I love her, LOL. And yes, added vitamins or something I plan to helping introduce soon. I find with top servers at parties, a good thing to do is ask if they have someone with them that they want to do aftercare with. If they don't, then time to discuss what they need from me. Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I think a lot of, I don't know if this is like a community issue or just like, I think this is probably just as an unintended side effect of the way that we talk about negotiations happening, is negotiations kind of, not even overtly, but I think they kind of implicitly get framed as being, oh, you're the bottom and you're negotiating what it's okay for the top to do to you and how they treat you. as opposed to a mutual thing where you're both deciding together what you both want to do during the scene and both of your needs and both of your boundaries and both of your limits. Does that make sense? Like there's talking about it as a one-sided thing versus a, you know, it's everyone involved gets their own say. And I think that's really important to also like, I think sometimes it can be a little awkward if you don't practice doing it, but as a submissive or bottom, also asking questions about your partner's needs for what they need for aftercare, how, you know, what their boundaries are, what sort of kinds of touch they're okay with and not okay with. Like, make sure as much as possible you're treating it as a mutual emotional and physical experience, because it is. And I think the more you treat it as a mutual experience as opposed to a one-sided thing, the more likely you are to have a better time. Obviously, there is space and room for more service-oriented, like, okay, you're just doing this for me because it's my birthday and you're my friend, and like, you're not really getting a lot out of this personally, except for like, you know, giving my birthday present. But, you know, those are hopefully not the only kinds of scenes that people are doing. It's just, you know, selflessly giving something they don't really want to be doing for someone else. Yeah, B12 is gonna be a tough one for people. Can be a tough one, but we love seeing thoughtful partners. It's very wholesome. Okay, alrighty. My dog is being super cute and I love her so much. All right, I'm gonna go back to the top. And by the way, if you want to make sure I answer your question, again, you can use a super chat. You can use Streamlabs, and that'll read your question out right away on the screen. I will get to it immediately. You can also put things in the question box. This time I'm doing something a little bit different because I have noticed when I toggle to the question box, it seems to cut off how far back in the chat I can scroll, and that makes it really easy to see earlier questions. So I'm going to try to get to questions that are already in the chat for right now, and then go over to the question box just so you all know what's going on. Oh no, it's morning here and I've been switching to earlier starts as I will be having uni classes online from 5 a.m. next week. Stupid time zones and daylight savings. That sounds really rough. Being in class at 5 a.m., I could not do that. I would actually, if I had to be in class at 5 a.m., I think honestly for my brain, it would actually be better for me just to stay up through however long classes take and then sleep afterwards versus trying to go to bed so early and then be up until like 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, I think that would maybe make like doing homework and stuff complicated, like timing wise, like where I fit that into the schedule and like have enough time to do all of it. But for my brain, I would absolutely have to be like, all right, I'm going to stay up through 9 a.m. and then classes are done, and then I'm gonna go sleep. Because that's what I did, like, you know, working overnights and stuff when I, was first I was still in college, I think, when I was doing that for part of it. And it's really, really hard to get a full night of sleep and then, like, wake up and work. Over under on someone having gotten themselves microchipped because of the last stream. I imagine at least a couple people have it on their checklist now. I don't know if anyone has the means or the ability to get microchipped in the last 7 days. I would be very impressed if it happened, though. I would be very impressed. I was told later, I talked to actually somebody at a party about this, and I mentioned like the microchip idea and doing that, and they were like, oh yeah, like body mod people do that. I'm like, wait, what? So apparently it is a thing. Apparently there are similar things that people that do body modification stuff, I don't think they necessarily do like tracking like pet microchip kind of things, but similar idea. Somebody's probably gotten an AirTag implant, haven't they? Does it even work if you do that? No, not gonna think about that. Don't like it. If anything like changes the contour of the skin, it like freaks me out. Either has to be invisible or it has to be like a piercing. If it just seems like a bump or something on the skin, and I'm not a fan. Just get rid of daylight savings time and time zones. Just have local times to the position of the noon sun as nature intended. Yeah, sure. Revolution now, make it happen. Become czar of the world. Oh, I say we get rid of daylight savings time. Yeah, why not? Oh yeah, no, sorry. I was just I was running a little late when I started the stream because I've just been moving a little slower today. So started a couple minutes late, which I hate doing, but it does happen because it turns out tattooing makes you tired. It's weird. It's like your body's like, you put ink under my skin and that's weird, and you did it for hours, and why? Screaming, no. And that's how the body reacts to tattooing. It's true. That's exactly what it sounds like. Meatballs and rice. I don't even know how to. I don't know, man. I can see it with being like a sweet meatball, like kind of a sweet, like a southern, like a grape jelly type meatball. I think I could see that with rice, but if we're talking about like a savory Italian kind of meatball sort of deal, like an American Italian meatball, I don't think no. I don't know. Not my thing, personally. I'm dog sitting a bulldog type, kind of like a mix of English bulldog and pug. That's awesome. Sounds very cute. In the words of karate instructor Napoleon Dynamite, break the wrist and walk away. I have not thought about that scene in Napoleon Dynamite for so long. Oh my god. I've occasionally had thoughts about Napoleon Dynamite in like the last year, mostly because it's set in Idaho, and like they have a bit where they go to the dunes, and I've like been to dunes this year, and so the whole time I was in the dunes, I kept thinking about how the grandma or whoever like broke her tailbone being on a dune buggy. Like, I thought about it the whole time. I was like, every time I looked at the dune, I was like, that's like that scene in Napoleon Dynamite, because that's how my brain works. But the karate scene, I've not thought of in a long time. Also, Kip and his girlfriend, whose name I don't remember, and then like genuinely finding love over the internet actually was like quite cute, I think. Rex Kwon Do. Yes, it was Rex Kwon Do. Oh my god. Is Napoleon Dynamite gonna have a comeback? Are Zoomers nostalgic for Napoleon Dynamite? They're like, I watched that movie when I was 4 years old and we had it on DVD. That's probably what the younger Zoomers. They're like, oh, that's one of my mom's favorite movies. Oh no. Hi Evie, thanks so much for your videos on puppy play. It's been a great introduction to the scene. I'm a trans woman and so many of my trans girlfriends are puppies. It's super cool to see. Yeah, I have actually wanted to make a video talking specifically about how puppy play has gotten so popular amongst trans women in the last like year and a half, 2 years. It's been wild to see from the outside. But it also seems like stuff is happening with like furries and therians too, like kind of like it's a rising tide raises all ships phenomenon, but specifically with like the furry fandom and therians and pet play all getting more and more popular. But it's interesting because it's getting popular again in like different ways and like different avenues. I feel like on social media, people doing puppy play had like, maybe not on TikTok, so maybe I'm like missing out on this, but I feel like I know a couple of accounts that are quite big who do like cosplay stuff and also do pet play stuff, but it's not just pet play, and the vibe of it is different. So I don't know, in my head it seems different, but I feel like on social media, like the pet play community at one point was probably like bigger, but now I feel like it's broader. Like before it was concentrated in a much smaller area and like it was very popular within its niche, and now it's like everywhere. Everyone's a puppy. Everyone has been hit by the puppy gun and they have been transformed into puppies. Which I've said that, and now that's probably somebody's fantasy actually, is that exact scenario, because brains are interesting. Okay. I had one not know what a VCR was. Oh my god. I feel like that's one of those things where you have to check. You have to check to make sure your age gap is cool. And I think having mutual, like, knowledge of certain things is probably important for that. Like, I wouldn't date someone who didn't know what a what a VCR is. Same, I mean, yeah. Same system, different components of the same system. If somebody was like, what's a VHS tape? I'd be like, well, then you're too young for me. Sorry, actually. Oh, wow. And luckily, I have a lot of collective knowledge about, like, older generations things because I tend to date people that are older than me because that has just been what's happened in my life for whatever reason. But I very rarely have moments where, like, I straight up don't know what they're talking about. They're like, oh, well, do you even know what a floppy disk is? And I'm like, yes, I know what a floppy disk is. I remember using a floppy disk. Like, I remember my dad's collection of floppy disks. I remember them being at the library. I know what a floppy disk is. So luckily, I haven't been too stumped on the, like, you know, only 80s kids remember, like, type questions. But sometimes it happens. The break the wrist scene lives in my head rent free. It's a good scene. It's a very strong line. That movie, man, that movie came out today. That would blow up on TikTok for real. There would be so many. You imagine the, like, fan cam edits of Napoleon Dynamite that would happen now. Oh, I want to see it. It would be amazing. I'm assuming Zoomers know what DVDs are, because they probably existed when they were, like, that's probably how they watched, like, Disney movies before Disney Plus existed. Right? I guess it depends. I don't think Gen Alpha might not know what a DVD is, but they're also, like, 5, so I don't expect them to know what a DVD is. Started a stressful job last month, struggling to include kink for my pup. She understands, but do you have any advice? Yes, and that is pre-planning. So I'm gonna give advice mostly in the realm of, like, pet play related stuff, because you said pup, so I don't know if you have any other dynamics or, like, things that you play with. But step number 1, identify what is most important amongst your needs to be fulfilled. Is it physical for both of you? Is it physical touch time? Is it time to have a conversation? Is it getting to do particular kinks? Is it getting to feel submissive towards you or for you to feel dominant over them? Is it getting time to unwind doing pet play activities? Is it, you know, just having time together in general in any shape and form? Like, what are you missing the most? And what is the most important amongst your needs to get fulfilled right now? And I think having a way to prioritize them helps you figure out, okay, what do we need to devote time to? Where do we need to make time? Where does my energy need to go? And let's say, just as an example, that the thing that you're both really missing is getting to do, like, specific kink activities. And they're things that maybe you can't really do easily on your own. And so you do them as, like, as a partner, you know, with them. I think, you know, pre-planning out time makes sense when you're otherwise really busy. Like, look at your calendar, see when you have a day off. And it doesn't, I think, don't overcommit yourself even within that amount of time. Like, if you know you have, like, okay, in 2 weeks, I know that on Saturday I'm gonna have, like, I'm gonna have a long weekend that weekend, or I'm gonna have 2 days off in a row, or whatever. And then just put that on your calendar, set aside, like, 2 or 3 hours just to have kink time for the thing that you're both really missing. And that'll help you plan out the rest of your week activities around that, so you don't end up not having any time on Saturday to do that. Like, as much as you can, like, pre-plan, you know, meals and errand running, and make sure that time stays that time, because it's important to hold space for that for your relationship. If the stuff that you want to do doesn't necessarily require physical in-person time together, like doing specific scenes or physical touch with each other, I mean, on the one hand, too, if it is more general, like if it's just like, we just wish we could share space together, like, physically more often, I think maybe shifting the way that you spend time together can make that easier. Like, instead of, like, maybe before, all the time you spent together was, like, more of a date night thing, or, like, more involved, or for longer. And I've had relationships before where people have gotten really busy, and, like, maybe at one point in time, you know, we had date nights where we'd see each other for, like, 4 or 5 hours before, you know, one of us went home. And then they got really busy, work stuff changed, and they didn't really have a lot of time, so that our hangouts or our couple time shifted to, okay, I don't maybe have time to hang out for several hours at night, but I can do like lunch at work, or I can, you know, take 2 hours on like Wednesday or something because I'm taking a PTO day, and then we can, you know, we can get coffee or something. And that would be our time together. And that for me, like, because I, you know, I didn't, like, the physical touch was good, but like for maintaining the relationship, it was much more important, like in terms of my preference of rank order, like emotional connection through conversation and like staying in touch with each other's lives and what's going on for both of us. That is way more important than like doing particular kink scenes or you know, cuddle time or anything like that. Like I could forgo all those for like weeks and weeks and be totally fine, but if I didn't have, you know, regular FaceTime with you or talking time with you, that was gonna make the rest of the relationship suffer. So I was able to kind of squeeze things into smaller like chunks of time because of that. And that worked out for like the temporary amount of time that it needed to happen. So depending on what the needs are, you can also just kind of like shrink, and maybe knowing that you're not going to be able to do everything that you want to do, but still making some time for it. And then if it's kink things that you can do remotely, like if it's more abstract ideas, like, you know, I want to feel submissive to you, I want to feel dominant over you, I want to have like protocol time, I want to do this and that. Those are things that you can direct someone to do, like long distance, over text message, without having to be together in person, whether that's like, you know, giving them orders to like, you know, send you pictures of things that you're doing, or have them record a video of them doing certain things, like, you know, depending on how close your relationship is. Like, I've had partnerships where they've been really busy and, you know, maybe they're out of town for a couple days for a work thing. And I'm like, you know, I'm sad that I don't get to have like DS time with you, and it's been a little while. You know, how can I serve you? And then maybe I go over, and when they're gone, you know, I help clean up their house or do their laundry or something. And that helps both of us, because then I get the good submissive feelings of like, I'm literally doing like housekeeper shit, and this is awesome and I love it. Like, this is great, I love it. And then they get the benefit of when they come home from their work trip, they're less stressed, both leaving to go on the trip and also coming back from it, because then they know they don't have to worry about, you know, having clean clothes or having the fridge cleaned out or making sure the garbage goes out on garbage day or something. Like, I get to help take care of those things. So that's been like ways that I've gotten to connect with partners like over distance and getting kind of more kink activities. And but planning from a distance to do things that feel fulfilling for your power dynamic, if you have one, I think can be really, really helpful. That can, if you're, you know, sexual oriented with your kink, you can definitely do things that are more sexual. If it's not sexual for you, and you know, it's maybe not even necessarily platonic, but it's like more platonic and romantic in nature, it could be more in that direction. But I think the best way to do that, so you're not like thinking during the week about things that you should ask your partner to do to make sure you're kind of holding up the end of the bargain, is like keep a note in your phone or keep a list somewhere of like, here's like 10 different things I can tell my partner to do that, you know, they're okay with, that they like doing, that's fulfilling for them and fulfilling for me. And then I can just look at the list. I don't have to think about it from scratch. I can just pick one of them and be like, oh, actually it would be really helpful if you did this thing for me, or I would really enjoy it if you did this, or, you know, this would really help me relax if you could do this, or whatever. Or bring us, now having a hard day would really bring a smile on my face if you took a photo, you know, wearing your collar, like kneeling in front of a mirror. Like, even something like that too could be really good, you know. And it's like, you know, send me a video of you like chasing around your like pet play toys, or like taking a nap in your pet bed or something. I think can all be good. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Any good place to start for dinner service training? If you can find a convention that offers an intensive for table service, for dinner service, that's a really, really good place to start if you can find it. However, there are numerous books you can get from Amazon or your local favorite book retailer even probably audiobooks too, I would imagine, if that's more your thing, that go over things like table settings and, you know, proper dining etiquette and the generally sort of like manners and etiquette books. I would look for that. If you can go in person and like browse through them, look for ones that have pictures of like, here's different ways to like set a table. Like here's like a continental dinner like place setting. Here's a breakfast setting. Here's how to set up a table for this thing. And it'll get into, you know, table setting, menu planning, meal prepping, you know, helping you put the whole thing together. But I think especially if you can learn from other kinky people, I think that's probably the best way to learn how to do like dinner and table service. But you also keep in mind, you don't have to start off with really high-minded, super fancy, you know, white tablecloth style dining. That can be a good goal to get to that. But if you're starting out with like, I mostly eat dinner from like a TV tray. If you don't have any, like, maybe you didn't grow up in a household where you sat down at a family dining table and you had dinner every night. I was one of those families. Like my family, you know, had, you know, place settings with real plates at an actual dining table. We had dinner every single night that way. And even to this day, if I go to see my family and we have dinner, it is the same place settings, the same plates, the same side salad. Everything is the same. So like, if you don't have that as a background, where you don't even really know, like, you know, which side is the fork and the spoon going, you don't even have any like muscle memory from setting a dining table as a kid, you know, starting very ground level of just, you know, figuring out how to like set a dining table, getting a full like nice matched set of silverware and plates, or artfully mismatched if you're so inclined, because that's also an aesthetic that some people like. You know, making sure that you have like nice glasses to drink out of, making sure you have why am I forgetting the word? Like dining mats? Placemats. That's the word I was thinking of. Having some nice placemats or a nice tablecloth, and figuring like practicing setting the tablecloth and ironing it and making it look nice. Like just starting out doing very, very basic stuff. It also depends on what specifically you want to do. Like, do you also want to be cooking meals? What kind of food do you want to be cooking? Do you want to learn how to make drinks? Do you want to learn how to do the service at the dinner table? Or do you want to, you know, put out a spread, leave a place for your partner for them to serve themselves, and then you're like, you know, a footstool underneath the table like that. You can have lots of different flavors of that dynamic. I've been with partners where they're like, no, I'm going to serve myself. You made the food. I'm going to serve myself. You go under the table and you're my footrest while I'm eating. And I've also had partners where it's like, well, yeah, we're going to eat together. I want your company. You're like, you can sit on the floor like next to me, but you're not like, I want you to talk to me while we're eating. So like, yes, serve a plate for me and you. Give me mine first, and then you take yours and then sit next to me on the ground and we'll talk while we're eating, right? So it really varies. But then as you kind of get those basic like cooking and dining skills, you can kind of expand those outwards into becoming progressively fancier. I wonder if there's stuff from like advice for people who work in like fancy dining establishments. I bet there probably is. Like if you go to like, there's probably a Reddit or something that's for like people who work in fine dining, where you can see what people are doing for like menus and place settings and the napkin salons or like whatever. That's the thing that people do too. And a lot of people like making like napkin animals, and that's like not a thing people do in nice dining anymore. But some people like it for the cute factor, the nostalgia factor. But yeah, that's probably where I would start. Is just with that. Oh, thank you so much for becoming a member. Welcome. Thank you so much to Sean, or actually no, sorry, not Sean. Carol, thank you so much for the gifted members. I totally missed that because my pop-out chat was covering up the notifications for that. So thank you so much. It's so generous. And welcome to all of our new members. If you become a member, you get access to our emotes. That is why the memberships exist. That is the only benefit. This is the only perk. is you get access to emotes, and you also get a very cute little Pomeranian badge next to your name. So I think that's pretty sick, if you ask me. That's pretty freaking awesome. IMO. But yes, thank you. Zoomers went to preschool in an 04 Honda Odyssey with DVD players in the back seats. What if I went to soccer practice when I was 6 in a 2004 Honda Odyssey? I think that's the Zillennial experience. We did not have DVD players in the back. Oh my god. The luxury I couldn't even imagine. Absolutely not. I have not watched the What's to Say for His review of Pillion yet. I would like to watch it for the Tuesday stream, I think, next week. I think would be fun. But I definitely want to check it out before I make my review, because oh my god. I am currently doing a part 2 to the Neil Gaiman video that came out earlier this week. And yesterday, I'm not done yet. Yesterday I wrote 11 pages. I think I'm going to cut myself off. I'm going to give myself 12 pages because I don't want to have to edit for longer than that. So I'm going to just cut myself off and try to have everything that I want to have said within 12 pages. And then if I need to follow up again at some future point, we will address it there and then. So I don't know. Yeah, but I would like to do my own review of Playa, but also getting to see their stuff would be very cool also. I still have a combination DVD VCR unit and my collections of DVDs and VHSs. All put away currently, though. I mean, I think the physical media is the way to go in the modern age. If I had the space to store anything like that, let alone, like, I don't even think my current computer has a CD drive. I don't think anything I own actually has a CD drive in it. But if I could get something like an external, like, DVD player and like plug it into my TV or something, or even just into my computer, I would love to just have like physical media. Although the thing is like I don't really watch, like, my media consumption is like 80% YouTube, 20% other things on streaming. And it really depends. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but it's normally around that breakdown. Like, I very rarely sit and like watch TV shows or watch movies. I essentially only watch things if somebody I know is like, oh my gosh, we should watch this together. Or like, I'm like, oh my gosh, we should watch this together. And if it's not that, I'm not watching it, pretty much. I don't ever, like, if I have solo time where I don't want to be doing anything else, I'm probably reading a book. I'm probably not watching television, which is probably good for me. But then, like, it is a solid, I don't know if a cacophony is probably overstating it, but, like, for the most part, if I'm working during the day, and even just like housework, not even just like work, but like just like housework and stuff, I probably have a YouTube thing on. It's sometimes it's stream, sometimes not. Sometimes I listen to like the Majority Report. Sometimes it's like Chris Kunzler. Like if I'm up and they're still streaming, it's like I'll watch like stuff like that, and then I'll like play YouTube videos. But for the most part, I'm not doing anything like that. Thank you so much. That's very sweet. Thank you so much for the donation, Carol. I have to figure out a way to treat everyone here to some fine dining and do this right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't think we have technology for remote virtual fine dining, but also like 100 people in a fine dining establishment would be pretty wild. Just like that'd be one very large table. I think we just have to rent out the place at that point. When I was in Germany, I had to buy a DVD player connected to my laptop with a USB cable. Oh yeah, I guess I could do it on my laptop too. The laptop screen's like pretty small. Yeah, I'm definitely a Majority Report listener for sure. I've gotten like more into them. Like I've always kind of listened to them off and off, and probably in the last like 6 months, I would say. I listen to them like quite a bit. I don't look necessarily, I like their stuff when they're just talking. I don't necessarily watch a lot of their like interview stuff where they're like talking to other random people in the industry, but I like sort of their coverage of the news. That's how I keep up to date on things. Also because they have it in podcast format and I can play it in my car when I'm driving around, which is pretty nice. That is a lot of time thinking about Neil Gaiman. It is, Tina. It really is. I remember when I started writing yesterday, but I wrote probably, I should see when I actually made the document and when I last edited it, because it'll tell me, but I tricked myself. I was like, I don't want to only write this today. What I'm going to do for this is and I don't do this. I don't know why I told myself I was going to do this. I was like, I'm just going to scan through this and I'm going to make bullet points of the things that I want to cover. But, you know, before I do that, I should just like write my intro and write kind of a summary of where things are at. And then instead of writing bullet points, I just kept scrolling and writing as I was reading the article. And then suddenly it had been several hours and it had been 11 pages and I went, oh crap, it's time for bed. I should go to sleep now. Oops. Okay. And I had such a hard time like turning my brain after that, because I kept thinking of like, oh, well, I should research this or I should do this. Because the first thing, like the first bullet point in the article that I talk about is like, without actually giving a proper citation, he quotes from like, according to Ann Summers, which is a British lingerie company, by the way, which is not even like a great lingerie company. It's like the British equivalent of like, I don't even know what to, like, Maidenform. Like, that's the mental. It's like the British version of Maidenform. Like, it doesn't have particularly, like, it doesn't have high-end connotations, let's say. At least not in my head. But quoted a random Ann Summers article about how many people are kinky in order to prove that vanilla people are the minority, and that therefore, in some very roundabout way, that means that the public outrage about Neil Gaiman is not about the crimes he allegedly committed, but about disgust towards kink, and is actually like kink shaming, and is like people only care about this because of how salacious it is because of like the nature of the allegations. And it's like, oh my fucking god. Also, that like any proclamations of kink shaming are just inherently very funny coming from a guy who unironically made an argument of like, here's a photo of a woman's face. Can't you just tell that she has a kinky vibe? Winky, winky, winky. Like, I mean, not to bring Tinky Winky into this, but like, I'm bringing Tinky Winky into it, I guess. Yeah, no, just, well, that's a point that was made, wasn't it? Okay. Oh boy. So yeah, it's like, it's only kink shaming when somebody does it to make an argument I don't like, but when I do it, it's not kink shaming. Because actually, by pointing out that somebody looks kinky in their face because of their facial expression in a professional headshot, you know, stereotyping what somebody looks like when they look kinky is you know, that's fine. That's good. We can do it. Anyways, just gotta make myself think about this more. But yeah, that's where we're currently at. It was a lot of, actually weirdly enough, it actually wasn't that much thinking about Neil Gaiman. It was mostly thinking about guy who has written a blog anonymously, and according to one person in my comment section, was/is a Buddhist monk, which like white leftist man converting to Buddhism and then becoming a monk and then turning out to be a male feminist who says very not feminist things about women and victims and also policing. Color me fucking shocked. I've probably met more of those than I care to mention, because when you live on the West Coast, you meet a lot of people that are like, well, I think gay people should have the right to vote. So therefore, I'm basically a socialist. Because that's how far the Overton window is moved at this point in time. I wish I remembered the book, but there is a book that was written by like some white guy from America that like traveled around to different sects of Buddhism, and he started out in like India, and then eventually goes to like a Zen Buddhist monastery in Japan somewhere, and then eventually he like gets through all of it and is like, fuck, actually I think this isn't right for me, and I'm like running away from my problems, and I'm like deluding myself into thinking that this is what I should be doing with my life because it seems important. Which happens quite a bit. There's a number of young people who think I'm doing something really important by becoming a monk, and then they take it seriously, and then through becoming a monk they discover actually this isn't my life calling, and this is me trying to escape from my life calling, which is something completely different that seems scary and hard. But yeah, different thing. Dude, I truly have no idea how that photo was supposed to be kinky. I was so confused, just staring at it being like, huh? Okay, the only thing I can think of, now that if you haven't been on Twitter, first of all, bless you, very good for your brain. But if you have been on Twitter at all, even though I have not looked up anything about the Olympics on Twitter, I've seen multiple tweets from people being like, when did this become the Gunnar Olympics? Why did they blah, blah, blah? Like, first of all, you think professional female athletes aren't hot as fuck? Like, lesbians would like a word, thank you. Or just anyone who's attracted to women. any non-cis man who's attracted to women could have been like, yeah, women who do sports are hot. But apparently this year is the year that Twitter discovered, wait, women who do sports are kind of sexy. Which is really funny. But this year they've really gone over the top with like, come on, man, why is she making a gooner face while getting her gold medal? And it's literally just somebody with a facial piercing smiling while holding and looking at her gold medal. Like, this is the kind of thing you only think if the main way that you look at women's faces is through porn. Like, this is the only, like, you just think a woman making an expression is pornographic because the only time you look at a woman is when it's in a porn. That's why. God, Jesus, it's depressing. But it feels like a similar vein of logic of like, she's making, so the reason I brought that up is because I think what he's picking up on is in her headshot, she's making like a little bit of a smile, like it's kind of like a half quirk smile, like it's like kind of thing. I don't have her facial muscles, I don't know how to recreate, but she's doing a little bit of a smile that I think some people might interpret as being a smirk. However, honest to God, I just went, oh, I think she's neurodivergent. Like, I think that's how, if you ask a neurodivergent person to smile for a photo, I think that's what would happen. But, I mean, shocks of all shocks, person who's a giant fan of Neil Gaiman, that's an artist who currently works somewhere in the entertainment industry, is neurodivergent. Who would have guessed? I actually don't know if that's true, so that's probably not something I would say in the video, because I don't even know how to find evidence of that being true or not. I doubt it's something that they're, like, public about. But I at the very least was like, oh, okay, like, here's an alternative explanation for this that isn't, like, her trying to give come hither eyes and her professional headshot. Like, what? Truly, yeah. It's like, do you go to, maybe, actually, the fact that he's a monk or has been a Buddhist monk might actually explain a lot of this. Because if he lived in a monastery that was, like, gender segregated or had, like, a really disproportionate amount of people, you know, like, it was just 90%, 95% men, and he just hasn't seen a woman's face in like 10 years. Maybe he's just like, oh, that seems like she wants me. Definitely the same energy of a guy that like goes to a mid-tier restaurant, you know, and thinks that the waitress is flirting with him because she like smiled while dropping off the water glasses. Like, yeah. I'm so sure that she was flirting with you, my guy. Absolutely. Especially when you're there on a date with another woman. And that's always women are always doing that. Female waiters are always openly flirting with people who are on dates. That always helps them get really good tips. It works every time. It's amazing. How porn brain are these people? Apparently. All the speed skaters being caked up discourse. I didn't even see that part, but it's like, yeah, athletes have glute muscles. I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're not getting BBLs. I don't know a lot about speed skating, but it does seem like the kind of activity that requires a lot of leg drive and thus glute muscles. Maybe it's the way that they film it. Honestly, the only discourse that should be happening about the Olympics is the fact that there was like a dog that left an Airbnb and then got like lost and was looking for humans and then found humans, but then the humans he found were in the middle of a cross-country ski race, and then he crossed the finish line and got photographed doing a photo finish for the cross-country like sprint medal or whatever it was. That was the only thing I want to talk about with the Olympics as far as appearances of people. Where's Morbella? Morbella's right here. Ta-da. Never doubt. She's always right there looking over me. She's not always seen, but she is always there and important, giving me she's sage advice. Not maybe Buddhist monk advice, but sage advice nonetheless. Oh god, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Now she was making a Hegio face. You might have a valid argument. But she wasn't though. And even then, it's like, come on, man, come on. Like, looking, also because it's things like somebody like looking down, like, okay, I'm looking at my orange. Does that look like I'm making a sexual expression? That's like the level of stuff we're talking about. Or someone being like, in a professional headshot. Like, I'm so sure. But it was literally just like a little. Isn't I'm not gonna do the face because I don't even want to screenshot that, but like isn't Hagio like when you're doing kind of a cross-eyed thing and then like also looking up and then like your tongue is out and the idea is you're making a face of like sexual bliss or something like that? That's a very specific facial expression. It's not just like a slight smirk. Like, that's how, like, I have one of my family members smiles that way. It's because they're neurodivergent and they literally just, like, don't know how to smile correctly the normal way. They just have not figured out that, like, mind-body connection of making, like, a regular, like, human smile. So, it's, you know, all different things, all different strokes. I say this is someone who constantly sticks their tongue out while thinking. Now, that would be funny if you just got a picture of somebody being, like, just sticking their tongue out, being like, real, like, cartoon character ass shit for real. Oh no! This year still brings us up. Canada's men's curling team got caught breaking the rules and told another team to F off. The U.S. women are hanging in there for a bronze. Didn't the women's hockey team win the gold medal this year? I mean, not to take away from, like, curling, but I have heard a little bit about curling and, like, something about a double touch. I don't know anything about curling. I've never been curling. I don't really know what curling is. I think it's shuffleboard on ice, from what I can tell. Which is not to dismiss and diminish. It's not to diminish it. That's the closest analogy that I have. I'm rooting for curling because Minnesota, but rooting for Great Britain because Canada sucks. It's not my bingo card. It's a lot of the other sports this year too. Like the men's singles did not go as people expected, and ice dance also did not go as people expected. Not strictly speaking, anyways. But I'm not necessarily a huge Winter Olympics person. I'm a gymnastics girl personally. So that's mostly what I'm looking out for. Actually, I did figure out how to curl my hair. I have to do it very specifically. It has to be like an overnight wet set curl, but I have figured it out. I have discovered the exact combination of products that makes that work. And I haven't done it I'm still figuring out the curl pattern I want to do with it, like how I actually want to set the rollers. But I have figured it out. But I cannot use heated curling irons. My hair is not compatible with those. They can sometimes work for a little bit if I get them done by, like, a hairdresser, but even then they usually just like completely fall out by the end of the night, so it doesn't really work for me. Being a volunteer gaming defender is just utterly pathetic. It is amazing that he's doing that as like a full-time gig, because I'm like, I don't imagine you get paid for Substack. It is a little weird. But at the same time, somebody had this theory, I don't know how true this is, but we know that Gaiman was raised by Scientologists, and we don't know definitively if he left Scientology or not. I think the implication has been over the years that he's left Scientology because, like, he doesn't seem to be a public member of it, and because he seemingly faced a lot of abuse as a child because of Scientology. But also, having an anonymous blog slandering your accusers and making them out to be liars is like 10,000% Scientology MO. Like, that is exactly the kind of thing that they would put money towards and fund, because it's like what Scientology... I don't know enough about Scientology to know why they think that's a good idea or like justifiable or why they do it. Hi, sweet girl. You're looking at me. Uh-oh. More bell down. Oh, God. Ah. But the anonymous slandering, libeling website is kind of their thing. That's like option number one for Scientologists is somebody's talking shit, let's make a website about them, let's dig up dirt. And that's like kind of exactly what's happening. So I'm not saying that he's like secretly a Scientology op, especially because people seem to be able to identify who this guy is and like who he has written for. But it doesn't mean that he's not a Scientologist. I guess some people are, or that he wouldn't, maybe get some nice donations for his articles from Scientology or something like that. So who's to say? Curling has this long history of being a polite sport. You call your fouls, you concede when the game is lost, you win, you buy beers for the losing team. And it's Canada's national game, and this Hoosier ruined it by poking the rock and going, I did not F you, and then being caught in 4K just this year sucks. I mean, yeah, that's what we call unsportsmanlike conduct. That's really rough. Especially if it normally is not a super competitive trash talking kind of sport. I feel like you gotta have the trash talking. That's like a hockey thing. You gotta have the shit talking be in other sports. But also I don't have, what the fuck is it on? I don't have Peacock or anything. So I've mostly been watching it through like highlights and stuff on YouTube, or if there's a clip or something that goes viral on Twitter or something, I might see it. I've seen them do that to people for decades, and I've been told they do it because L. Ron told them to. Yeah, I think it's like if you're an enemy of a Scientologist or something, if you're, what's their term for it? If you're, like a regressive person, like a suppressive person. If they determine that you're a suppressive person, that's sort of a no holds barred, all out war kind of thing against you. So, that's their justification for it, is actually because of something to do with their religion that they may or may not actually believe in. They think that if you're a suppressive person, there's nothing that they can do to you that would be wrong, essentially. Which is a dangerous mindset to have, I think. In Scientology, some enemies of the church are declared fair game, where you can basically do anything and attack them. It goes back to Hubbard. Yeah, I think that was what I was just talking about with the suppressive person thing. Our national game is actually lacrosse, not curling. Oh, okay, good to know. Not that I'm up to date on a Canadian sports. I don't even know. I guess baseball our national game? Do we have an official national game in America, or do we just say that baseball is America's pastime? I missed the opening ceremony, so all I know is Figuregate, Dog, Winter. I mean, that's essentially what I know. And Quad God. That's the other thing that you should know. Sam Cedar, what a nightmare. Yeah. Whatever happened to Steven Crowder? What is going on with Steven Crowder? Is he still around? Is he still making content? I think about, like, where is Steven Crowder? Like, at least on, like, a monthly basis. I'm like, I haven't seen anyone make a video about Steven Crowder being an asshole in, like, 4 months. Where is he? Is he still being an asshole somewhere online? Is the people still paying him money? I think he's on Rumble, but I think everyone else is like completely, like, Dave Rubin is currently more relevant in the conversation than Steven Crowder is, which is like good riddance. Good riddance, I say. You have an external floppy disk reader? That's awesome. I wonder if you can even get a new one of those these days, or if you just have to like buy one and refurbish it. hopefully they're not that like difficult to figure out. There's a question about including kink, but things being stressful. Why sometimes, like last week, does the stream title change? When I feel like it, in order to give people a better, accurate understanding of what we talked about during the live stream when they click on it. But I don't do it very consistently because I don't always know what's a good thing to change the title to. So I just sometimes keep it as what it is. Sometimes it's very clear and I'm like, oh, we talked about this for a long time. But a lot of times I don't. I mostly don't. Isn't Crowder's wife still divorcing him, or am I mixing him up with someone else? I think they're getting divorced. Wouldn't it be crazy if Steven Crowder married Erica Kirk? Like, just out of left field. It'd be crazy. I don't think that would happen. But maybe. Russell Brand's been pretty quiet, I think, as well. Oh, really? That's surprising, because that man seems pathologically incapable of shutting up. So I'm sure he's doing something else somewhere that maybe is a little bit farther out of the public eye, trying to avoid, complete censorship on all of social media. But who knows? But who knows? All right. Making sure. Okay, why aren't you letting me scroll YouTube? Okay, I need to I think my computer needs like a defrag or something. It's been pretty slow recently. I don't know what they mean by dungeon mistress. That was not clear to me. All right. I am going to, and a reminder, please put your questions in the chat if you would like me to answer them. JD Fan, Steven Crowder, Erica Kirk, Polycule. No! That would be the vibes from that. I think polyamory, if you did that, polyamory might just die off entirely. I think we'd have to invent a new word. We'd have to migrate to a different thing. Atrocious vibes. But yes, please put your questions in the chat. You can put them in the regular chat here, and I may or may not see it. You can put it in the white box, and I will for sure see it. Or you can do a super chat through Streamlabs or through YouTube, and then I will see your question right away, and you will get bumped to first in line. But we somehow only have half an hour left already because I apparently like to talk about things, and time goes by very fast. Last time I saw Brandy was doing weird half-naked push-ups with Rogan. Now I'm remembering I think it was, I don't even know who was in the video with him, but I'm pretty sure RFK Jr. was in a dry sauna doing push-ups with somebody. Which, first of all, if you're in a dry sauna, don't do physical exercise. That's not what dry saunas are for. You should not, that's a really good way to faint and pass out in a dry sauna, and that's very dangerous, so don't do that. Don't do anything. Do the opposite of whatever RFK Jr. tells you to do. I think is a good rule of thumb. He's just the inverse of a tastemaker. If he tells you the sky is green, it's blue, that's the kind of level of communication we're on. But that sounds awful. But they like doing their homoerotic push-ups. All right, questions. I am getting to questions. With Kid Rock? Wait, that was with Kid Rock? Oh my god. I can't. It's too much. Somebody just put in a period, so I don't know what that means. Thoughts on puppy play. So many thoughts on puppy play. I don't even know where to begin with thoughts on puppy play. Thought 1, I am dog. Thought 2, I am dog. Thought 3, am not dog, but joke about being dog. Okay, now that I've said that, I do have to very seriously clarify in case at one point in time I ever become a target by, libs of TikTok or something. I do not think that I am a dog trapped in a human's body. I do not think that I have the soul of a dog or the spirit of a dog or anything anywhere near that constellation of things. I think that I was a weird kid, and I really like dogs, and I still really like dogs, and it's fun to pretend to be a dog for a little while, and it's relaxing, and I like it, and my partners like it, and it's fun, and that's all it has to be. It's just fun little make-believe, sometimes dress up time, sometimes not dress up, just sometimes, I'm at a museum and I make a little joke about a sign that says no dogs allowed, and I say, wait, no dogs are allowed here. And then my person will be like, well, then you're just gonna have your human disguise on. Really good. And then I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And then I pretend that I'm being a human dog. I'm a human pretending to be a dog, pretending to be a human. And that's funny, but I don't actually change my behavior in any way. It's literally just like a little joke for a minute that I have to wear my human disguise, and it's funny, and that's all it is. And just to get it out there. But I do like puppy play. I think it's wholesome. I think it's cute. I think it's great that people are getting into it, and I really hope it does not get diluted and misappropriated by the mainstream. I don't think it will be. But, you know, never say never. I don't even know what that would look like to have that happen. But I don't know. I guess there's a thing that we talked about the other week with, like, Therians and pup hoods, right? Like, with Therians and wearing pup hoods and then being really confused about where the pup hoods came from and the connotations within, like, the gay men's kink community and then outside of the community, and people buying knockoff kink gear from Alibaba for $2 and then being shocked when the thing that they bought that has a name like cute, awesome, fun, Halloween, puppy hood, mask, suit, costume, cosplay, sexy, fun time, role play, wolf, headgear, headband, hoodie, blah, 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 whatever. Just like the most SEO garbage you've ever seen in your life. Being like, oh my god, I didn't know that was like an adult sex thing. How about before you buy something for $2, you reverse image search it to see to see if it's stolen from somewhere else first, just as a thought. But yeah, it's I don't love that part maybe getting super popular, but I think it's great that people are discovering the wonders of low-key relaxing role-play experiences. The human disguise thing is adorable. I think it's like my favorite thing that I've invented in the last it's my favorite new thing I've invented in the last like 2 years. I'm like, this is like a really, I don't know, actually 2 years. It's done a lot of stuff in 2 years in terms of like kink growth. So maybe that's not my favorite, but it's definitely like top 5 of thing that I've like made a regular joke that I think is funny every time. Yes, Bandita has joined the chat. I think she is impatient about going outside and getting dinner soon. So she's motivated. Yeah, no fewer than 89 words. Yeah, they're hitting the absolute maximum word count and character limit on the item title. Bandita is very regal. How are you doing, sweetie pie? Hello, girly. What are you doing? Are you waiting for me to be done? I think you are. Yeah, I know I'm not coming over there, huh? So it's not as fun. I know. Well, we'll be done soon, okay? Yeah, I can see you thinking about wagging your tail. I see you thinking about wagging. Boop, 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 boop. You're so cute. I love you. You're so cute. Little tiny little puppy wags. Oh my goodness. Deep down, me and Sean are Therians. Just kidding, or maybe not. I mean, only you know what's in your heart. I don't know who's a Therian and who's not. That's for them to tell me. I'm not like linked up or tapped into anything related to Therians. I know a couple furries. I know of a couple furries. I'm sure I've met people in the kink community. I'm sure some of you in the chat identify as Therians, because I've had people leave comments before, especially on my pet play videos, being like, I'm a Therian and something, I don't know, like something related to being a Therian. And that's about the extent of my exposure to that. I don't really know a lot. I think I probably saw a little bit about it on, I don't know, Tumblr maybe, but never been a community I've had much contact with. My cat has never met a dog, but for some reason I feel like he'd like Bandita. Well, that's good, because Bandita loves cats. She loves cats. She's obsessed with them. She wants to be around them. She wants to smell them. She wants to lick them. She loves cats. So she's also like cat-sized, and I think that is good for cat-dog relations, is when they're equivalent sizes. You know, when they're roughly equal with each other. What makes for a safer dungeon? What are some red flags? Oh gosh, I probably have a video about this, but I would say that the things that I look for, okay, bare minimum, do you have some kind of waiver I have to sign at the door, right? Do you check IDs? That's probably the biggest one. If they don't check IDs, that is like the biggest red flag. Every dungeon, I don't care how new it is, how small it is, every single dungeon, every kink event should be checking IDs. It is, you do not want a 16-year-old in your kink space. Oh my fucking god. Do not do that. Luckily, it does not seem to be very much of a problem. I do know of places where it has happened before. I have been to a dungeon that did not check IDs that I think now does, but did not at the time. Just don't risk it. Massive red flag if they do not check IDs. Definitely got to be doing that. I also look, and this is very subjective, I look for places that do not serve alcohol. I've been to kink venues that serve alcohol. I have played at kink venues that serve alcohol. That is not how I prefer to experience my kink. I have not had safe experiences at dungeons where people are drinking. I know there are people out there that can, they either don't drink and go, or they, do things that are negotiated ahead of time where they know that one or, both of them are going to have some level of alcohol in their system. I just don't feel safe in those environments. It's not for me. Not my thing, personally. But yeah, I've just not had good times at dungeons that involve drinking. So, depending on what you're comfortable with being around, the presence of alcohol may or may not be a red flag. I also think that can be a red flag because it means that they're financially motivated to sell you drinks, probably more than they're motivated to make sure that you have like a good kink time. Because I imagine that most of their income probably at that point typically comes more from drink sales than door tickets. So you got to be careful with that for that reason. Do they have safer sex supplies and cleanup supplies, right? Do they have sharps containers? Do they have gloves? Do they have condoms? Do they have disposable chucks? Do they have, maybe they have sheets or something? Do they have some kind of way to clean surfaces between different people? Do they have some kind of way to make a barrier? If they don't have anything like that, that's also a red flag in my book. That also maybe is not on a single use case the most dangerous, but I think it more speaks to an overall lack of consideration and planning to not have any kind of safer sex or cleaning supplies at your public sex and or kink party, but mostly the kink. And then some places, okay, maybe your dungeon doesn't allow for genital contact, and so like, okay, you don't have condoms because the state you live in means that for whatever weird legal reason you can't allow genital contact in your dungeon. Okay, then maybe you don't need condoms for that. But to not have any cleaning supplies, any safer sex supplies, that is just like a big red flag. I think anything that has like gendered rules or gendered pricing structures, big red flag, massive red flag, because where do they put trans people, for example? Where do they put non-binary people? It's icky, and oftentimes what that means is that, well, on one hand, they could just be like transphobic or ignorant about the existence of trans people, but more often it means that it's like a swingers club or ran by swingers, and that creates a very weird dynamic where, especially if it's like at a straight oriented party, let's call it seems like a weird phrase, but whatever, I'm sticking with it. That means that they essentially are treating women as the product in that environment. Like, women don't pay anything or very little to get in. And as a result, men pay a lot to get in if they're single without a woman being there, which means they view interaction with women typically as an entitlement to the experience because, well, but I paid $50 to get in here. What do you mean one of these women won't fuck me? Which, first of all, $50, hell of a deal. Hell of a deal for intercourse with a stranger, if you're gonna think about it that way. But yeah, that's any sort of gendered pricing structure or like gendered rules. This is something I've always heard about, used to be a thing, but I don't think is a thing so much anymore. But allegedly, back in the day, way back in the day, like 80s, 90s back in the day, they used to have events even at like more public venues, not at like somebody's house, but like a dungeon, where, you know, there were dress code rules based not on your role, but on your gender. So like, you know, all like they sort of be lumped together, like talking about all submissives as being women, and therefore women, you know, submissives have to all be naked and they're not allowed to use furniture or like make eye contact with people. And then men are the dominants, and they, you know, can make eye contact and they can initiate, you know, touching people randomly and all this, that, and the other. But thank you, Sean, for the 15-minute warning. If you would like to make sure that I answer your question, now is a great time to use a super chat. Otherwise, I cannot promise I will get to it. But those are probably my biggest red flag for being in the venue itself. We could get into like red flags from like event listings or like how people describe the parties themselves or other aspects of it, but those ones would be the big red flags that I would look for. And I think what makes a dungeon safer largely comes down to, do you have very clear consent policies? Like, so for like green flags would be like, do you have a clearly posted consent policy? How accessible is it? Is it on your website? Is it on your FetLife page? Is it in your event listings? Like, or at least a link to it is in your event listings. Do you have people sign a waiver where they agree to abide by whatever that policy is and whatever your procedures are? You know, do you have a plan in place to deal with consent incidents? And is it something that is transparent and known before you end up in that situation? Obviously having the cleaning supplies, you know, making sure people, you know, have their IDs checked. Those are all really important too. I would say another green flag that I look for that's related to consent stuff, but not only just that, is like the biggest red flag to me is having an orientation beforehand. Or sorry, green flag. The biggest green flag for me is having an orientation ahead of time, because that means that everyone who comes in the door has to take that and presumably has to at least have the words forced into their ears and or eyes of like what's allowed, what the norms are, what's against the rules, how to behave. And so there's no excuses when people walk in the door the next day or the next week going to a party. Like, you were forced to consume this information. You know that you are not allowed to take photos of random people or grab random people, or interrupt scenes, or do whatever it is that they're doing. Like, it's very clear, there's no ambiguity, and that typically means that problems are fewer, they get identified more easily, and they get removed more quickly, because it's like there is literally no excuse out of ignorance. Like, you had to know that this was wrong in order to get into this event in the first place. So orientations, I think, are really, really, really important if a venue is able to provide those. But yeah, it's difficult to know ahead of time what you're getting into. So I think also making a plan to go early, vibe a place out, maybe even go to a social event first that isn't a play party. See if you jive with the space, like if it's your energy, if it's like the right kind of, you know, people and vibe for you. And then if you feel good, go back when it's more of a party. Or if it's not good, then don't go back. And then if they don't really have socials or they only have play parties, you know, go to the play party early. Don't make any kind of commitment to stay there for like the whole event. Just tell yourself, okay, I'm not here to play. I'm not here to, you know, do anything wild. I'm just here to get a sense of the place, maybe talk to some people, watch what people are doing. And as long as I've done that, like, I've succeeded and I've met my goal for what I want to do. If I see suspension gear and no counter with scissors, like a countertop with scissors, okay, so first of all, I wouldn't necessarily say that what you want is scissors. You probably want safety shears. For me, the red flag for that is probably just the quality of the hard points more than anything else. Like, oh my god, I have been in places where the fucking hard point is a eye bolt drilled directly into drywall. I'm not even kidding you. Same thing with like poles as well. If there's any, I don't see this with dungeons too often, though. I think like sex clubs and swinger clubs are places that host kind of all those events, and also kink events. I have been to some places that have poles in them that are very, very not sturdy, that are also very suspicious. Let's say pressure mounted systems without the adequate amount of pressure. It's not great. I recall attending a private party, not kink specific, more alternative folk in the 2000s, where the host opened the door and pointed the man out back and the woman into the room off to the side. Yeah, then that sounds like, I mean, my recollection of like blogs where they said stuff about like women aren't allowed to wear clothes or make eye contact and they're all submissive and blah blah blah. Like they're written in a format that makes it sound like this is what BDSM parties are like. Well, what that really means is I live in Ohio, and this is what my experience going to Greg's party was like, because this is what Greg does for his house parties. And because that was the only information that people really had to go on at that time in the internet, you know, that people just didn't know better, and they just were like, oh, that's what people do. And it's like, no, there's many ways of doing this. But I am glad this blog exists because it is a really good time capsule for all that. Funniest justification I saw for ratios. We need more girls than boys because the girls can dance with each other. Implicitly, boys can't dance with each other, apparently. I also like the implication that in order to dance, you have to dance with somebody. Like, you can also just be like rocking it on your own. Like, I went to Death Guild recently, which is like a goth club in San Francisco. And there was like literally, apparently he's a regular. I was told he's like been there for decades. There was a guy who the entire time he was there, he danced by himself while holding some part of the furniture or the wall or the pillar or something. Like he had, like, it was almost like he had to be grounded to something in order to dance. And like, honestly, I loved it. He was just vibing by himself, one hand on a pillar, dancing and vibing out, and it was fantastic. I was like, I'm so glad. He also was wearing sunglasses. I don't know what his situation was. I'm sure he had a whole story, but he didn't want to tell it to anybody. He was just having his own damn time by himself. I always carry my own safety shears, when using rope, but I don't do suspension. I'm not experienced enough to be comfortable doing suspension. I think that's totally valid, and yeah, carrying your own suspension shears, I think is not shears, safety shears. That's the word that I was looking for. Safety shears. I think carrying those on your own is really important. I think everyone should have them all over the place. I think that they should be in your car. I think they should be anywhere you need to cut out of something. I think is great. Because you never know when you're going to need them. And they make, Leatherman makes something called like a Raptor, which is like a super fancy, presumably reusable set of safety shears. However, they're pretty bulky, and I feel like you shouldn't use something that you're emotionally attached to. I feel like having something that's like $5 that you just keep and like can be single use and you don't give a fuck about it is probably better than something that's like really thick and fancy, because I don't know anyone who works in the medical field that uses like fancy reusable safety shears. That's just not a thing, at least as far as I know. You're just living his hashtag best life. Yeah, for real. They also played Lady Gaga, which is super funny. I love it when I go to goth clubs because like I'm always reminded, I don't like go out to dance super often because I'm pretty COVID averse, so it has to be an environment where I can wear a mask, and then it has to be at a point in time when cases aren't super high, and like it's a whole thing. But when I get a chance to go out, it's really fun, and I'm always reminded of how stupid it is that people argue about like, well, blah 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 isn't goth music and this isn't goth, blah blah blah. I'm like, I literally heard a set list that went something like Bauhaus, Lady Gaga, Depeche Mode. Like, that was the set list. And then they changed DJs, and then it was like completely different. But like, it's not like they don't like play like other types of music at these clubs. It's super funny. Yeah, it's very, very silly. What sounds playing in the background? My background music. Hey Evie, I tried to attend a DM and rope safety class today, but the address on FetLife was a fluke, like it was the wrong address. Is this normal? Should I have messaged the organizer? I don't know. I guess if you mean it was the wrong address, I wouldn't say that's normal, but I would definitely, I mean, it's not like you should have messaged them in the moment, like ahead of time to check if the address is right. Like, I think that probably would have been excessive, but I would message them and be like, hey, I tried to go to your class. Also, the address is off. Like, maybe they moved locations and didn't update to a new address, or maybe somebody fat fingered it and it was like 3400 Northeast 10th Street. And they put down 340 Northeast 10th Street, and it took you to like a totally different part of the neighborhood. So it could be just like a simple explainable mistake, but people aren't typically putting in like just fake addresses into FetLife events. If they're putting in no address at all, they're probably putting in like Gary's garage, you know, is like the location. Like, they're not even putting in a street address. It's just like, you know, if you know, you know, Gary's garage is the address. What are some red flags looking out for in a dungeon? We have a huge one here outside of Eugene, but I've heard that it and its owner have a bit of a history. I mean, yeah, I can't speak to the specifics of that dungeon in Eugene, but I would say that the if you have heard things about the owner of a dungeon and its history, that's probably worth taking into consideration. And like tread cautiously at that point, probably. Unless you have evidence of something like really big has changed, because, you know, sometimes venues have like bad reputations by name, and then they get like a new owner, or, you know, like a whole bunch of things happen. Like, I definitely know of places where it was called Gary's Garage, and it was it's not a real place. It was Gary's Garage, and it was ran by like this couple for 30 years, and they had like a bad reputation, and like bad things happened at their parties. They didn't do anything about it, and then they like sold the dungeon to somebody else, and then that dungeon reorganized, got a board, you know, did elections, completely changed the place inside and out. But, you know, maybe they didn't change the name and it's still Gary's Garage because everyone calls it that, right? Like, there might be something where the dungeon is physically the same, but maybe it's like different leadership or different people involved, and that might make it safer, but hard to say. What a combination, Bauhaus, Gaga, and Depeche Mode. I thought it was a ride. I guess it all technically is sort of like, Bauhaus I wouldn't say is poppy, but it was a sonic experience. I will say that. Okay, probably have time for a couple more questions here. Okay, this is probably going to be a longer one, so this might be the last question. Hey Evie, how do you get back in a sexy mood with yourself if you feel very disconnected to your sexuality, both vanilla and in terms of kink, especially if you feel like something inside has shifted, and especially if you are not with a partner who is open to let you explore that, because it might involve more partners and they are in a monogamous era with you. Okay, there's a lot going on here. I will recommend you some books, actually, is what I will do. So, all right, these are like these are a couple of my favorites. So, Hot and Unbothered, I think, is good for like exploring where you're currently at, and like gives you a lot of like tools and exercises to do, and like just generally gives you advice on like how to fulfill your like sexual desires. Like, I mean, it is what the subtitle says. It is how to think about, talk about, have the sex you really want. There you go. There is Sexual Intelligence, which I also really enjoy too. What we really want from sex and how to get it. I think this is great for breaking down in particular social expectations about sex and how sex should be, and also a lot of stuff about like why maybe sex with a partner isn't working or why your needs aren't getting met. Whereas this, I think, is a little bit more like self-focused. This also talks more about like relationships, where this is more about just like sex itself. And then this one is Come Together by Emily Nagoski. And then this one is about like, again, like sexual relationships in particular and like improving them. So I actually don't have, these ones I don't have bookmarks in because this, I've, read digital versions of them and I haven't reread since then to highlight them. But those ones I really like. I think if you're feeling disconnected from your body and you're like having trouble connecting with your sexuality, there's exercises in this book in particular that you will probably find helpful to do and help you sort things out. The getting your needs met and monogamy versus polyamory and all of that is like a whole other can of worms. If you feel like you have sexual needs that your partner cannot meet and they are going to be monogamous with you and there is like no shot of opening that relationship in any way, or at least not for the foreseeable future, that's really tough. I would probably not, like if I, like even if it wasn't sex, like maybe for more my speed, like if it was like kink stuff, let's say, if I was in a monogamous relationship with someone and my kink needs were not being met and did not have any hope of being met by the partner I was currently with, kink is important enough to me to where I would choose trying to fulfill the kink over just maintaining that relationship. But also like, I'm not that entangled with anybody. I don't have kids with anybody. Like, I don't have a life where like I like need to prioritize a singular relationship over like what my relationship needs themselves are. But I think like identifying like why the shift has happened, identifying why you feel disconnected. And I think if there's a lack of openness about exploring and like you feel like those parts of your needs aren't getting met, I can definitely see those two parts of it being connected. Yeah. But I think that's probably, is there any other like quick questions I can answer real quick that's not going to involve like a whole diatribe for like 10 minutes? Really appreciate the term monogamous era. Yeah, I think that's also good just from a perspective of like maybe it's not going to be monogamy forever. Like who knows? But I would definitely, this is a lot to read. If you're going to read one of them, I would read Hot and Unbothered if you're going to pick one. I'm pretty sure this has an audiobook. You can get this like used online. It's not that expensive. And if you like more like therapy focused things, I would probably read this one if you want to have like more therapist-y kind of tools and like in kind of breaking down like social expectations and norms. If you are focused more on the relationship and improving the sex in the relationship, then and like intimacy in general, I would get this one. But these are my suggestions. I love how they're all very much like the same height. That's very satisfying. But there you go. That is that on that. Thank you all so much for being with me. I think I have done all I can for Bandita's patients. You are very ready, huh? Yeah. Okay. We are going to go take care of ourselves. Thank you all so much for being with me on this Friday evening. I promise I will have some lighthearted videos soon that are not about serious issues. So look forward to that. I have a bunch of, I think, more serious topics to cover. So I am trying my best to schedule things to where I'm alternating between heavier topics and lighter topics to give everyone a breather, because I don't want my channel to just be like reporting on the news. That's not really what I want to be doing, but I also want to talk about things that are important to me at the same time. So it's a balancing act. But with that being said, thank you all so much. I will talk to you all again very soon. Stay safe, have fun, and I will see you all later. Bye. Oh my gosh, we're so ready. We're so